Hey guys, it's Ms. Koirala here. So for these video notes, you need this notes page if you're in class, or you need to make sure you have your OneNote open. If you would like to take notes in your journal, make sure you have your pencil out, and if you have highlighters, take them out as well. Or if you have colored pencils, colored pens, you can use different colors as well. So I will be using some different colors. Alright, so it is over writing equations on from verbal situations. So verbal situations will be given and we will be writing an equation to represent it. Okay, so here's your essential question. Same thing, how do I write equations from verbal situations? Go ahead and write that down and you click continue when you are done. Alright, so here's the first situation here. Miss Koirala, which is me, deposits $500 into a savings account. She adds an additional $150 every 2 paychecks. Okay, and for this we are going to write an equation that represents the amount of money in the account. The amount of money in the account is represented by the letter T after every paycheck, which is represented by the letter P. So remember guys, the equation that for the unit that we are in right now, which is non-proportional, remember has a m, a slope, and a b, which is the y-intercept. So your equation looks like this right here, y equals mx plus b, okay? But then we are given what letters we need to use instead of y and x. So I'm just going to plug in the t, which is the total amount, for y, equals, m is still the same, and then p is your word for x, letter for x, and then plus b, okay? All right, depending on where we begin, what happens to the numbers, what happens in the situation, we are going to have positive or negative m and b. Okay, so let's keep that in mind, and let's draw a picture over here in the box right here. Okay, this box right here is for you to draw a picture. Okay, so we are going to draw a picture of the verbal situation, what's happening there, before we even start cubing, circling, underlining, boxing, keywords, and everything like that, okay? So I have deposited $500 into a savings account, which is at a bank. So I'm just going to draw a bank. I'm really bad at drawing, guys, so don't judge. Okay. All right, so here's the bank, B for bank, and I'm putting in or depositing $500, okay? And then after that, I am going to, again, adds additional $150. I'm going to use different, sorry about that, but I am adding additional $150 every 2 paychecks, okay, 2p. So we are at this situation where we have $500 in the beginning, and then I'm adding $150 every 2 paychecks, okay? So now we have a picture right here to refer back to whenever we need to, okay? So let's go ahead and cube now. So I am depositing $150 into a savings account, and I am going to add additional $150 every 2 paychecks, okay? So the reason why I only circled is because I want you guys to figure out what the key words are for M words and B words. And remember, M is the letter that we use to represent the what? Yes, if you said slope for M and B is for y-intercept, you are correct. Okay, so let's go back here, and what would the $500 be? And what keyword tells you that that is that value? Okay, so you should have boxed deposits, and you should have written down, we are going to write down that that is a keyword for the y-intercept because we're depositing that $500 into the savings account in the beginning. That's the starting amount, okay? So deposits is the keyword. So if we're depositing money, guys, is that addition or subtraction? We are adding, right? Deposits, so that's positive y-intercept. And then let's move on to the slope. So she adds, Miss Querella, which is me, I add an additional, adds, additional. These are keywords for what type of a slope, guys? Positive, okay? So we have a positive slope, and the keyword is, you guys know this, every, okay? Every is a keyword for M, so we are going to write that down right there, okay? Every. So we're almost done. We are at the point where we are about to write an equation, but I noticed that the slope is not exactly the unit rate that we want. We want for one paycheck, how much money do I deposit? Okay, so to figure that out, I'm just going to label my X and Y. So I'm just going to use a different color. So $150 is my Y, and then the 2 paychecks, that's my X. Okay, so I just go over here, M equals Y over X on a verbal. So M equals 150 divided by 2, which is M equals what? You should have gotten 78 when you divided 150 divided by 2. Sorry, I meant 75. Okay, so it's actually 75 per paycheck. So every one paycheck, I'm depositing $75 per one paycheck, okay? All right, so we have the slope, and what is the y-intercept, guys? Yes, it is that $500. This is your B, okay? So let's come down here to the equation, and we're going to write it down. Remember, we are starting with T equals, and we have the slope, which is 75 right here, 75, and then we're using P for the X, and then we're adding the deposited amount of $500. So we have positive y-intercept and positive slope because we are depositing money into the bank and adding $150 every 2 paychecks, which is $75 per one paycheck, okay? So this is your equation. I'm going to put a cloud around it so it stands out. Okay, so if we were to write this equation, guys, in y equals mx plus b, what would it look like? Okay, so it would look like y equals 75x plus 500. Okay, so this was a verbal situation, guys, where the slope and the y-intercept were positive, but it gets a little trickier when we have keywords that tell us that the slope and the y-intercept are different. So let's go ahead and move on to the second example. Okay, so we have Mr. Alonzo and his wife who are hiking. They started at 7,564 elevation. I'm going to draw a picture here, and they're on a mountain. So here's the mountain, and they are right now at 7,564 feet elevation. They are hiking down the mountain and will descend 234 feet every 3 hours. So that tells me that Mr. Alonzo and Mrs. Alonzo, sorry, the drawings are really bad, but are descending 234 feet every 3 hours, okay? So what does the picture tell you guys? They're beginning at that level of 7,564 feet elevation, and then they're going down or hiking down 234 feet every 3 hours. So what does that tell us about our slope? It's going to be negative, right? Negative slope. I'm actually going to make a note of that right there. Okay, and the picture also tells us that we're going down, okay? All right, now let's go ahead and cube. I need you guys to cube. I will be cubing and we will compare. Alright guys, so your paper should look like mine, where you have boxed started and that number is circled 7,564, so that the started is a keyword for B, the y-intercept, and that value is 7,564. And then the slope is described by saying that Mr. and Mrs. Alonso are going hiking down the mountain and will descend. So descend down tells us that it's a negative slope, 234 feet every 3 hours. So that keyword every tells us that we're going to be using the 234 and the 3 to find our actual unit rate, the slope for 1 hour. How much is the descent of elevation? Okay, so every, down, descend are keywords for M. And then I also went ahead and wrote down the equation that is going to be E is the elevation, which is used in place of Y, equals the M again, and then the H is used for X, plus the B value if it's positive, but if it would be negative if it was a negative B value. Okay, so depending on what the slope is, well, we know it's a negative, so that M is going to be a negative. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and find our actual slope because we don't have it yet, right? Okay, so I'm going to go over here and find our slope. So M equals, remember it's what over what on a verbal situation, a verbal, it's Y over X. So we have M equals 3 hours, so hours is a unit of time, so that's going to be your X, and the 234 is your Y, okay? Okay, so when you plugged in the numbers and did the math, you should have gotten 78. But is it positive? What was happening as time passed? What were Mr. and Mrs. Alonso doing? Were they going up, ascending, or going down, descending? They were going down, and we also wrote down here that it was going to be a negative slope, so we're going to add a negative in front of it. So your M is negative 78. So let's finish up our equation over here where we have E equals, what is our M? It is negative 78. Let's not forget to write that negative sign since it's a negative slope. H, and then we do have a positive y-intercept because we begin at that height. But then the slope is negative because Mr. and Mrs. Alonso were descending instead of ascending up the mountain. They were going down, so it's a negative slope. Okay, so every hour, guys, how much do Mr. and Mrs. Alonso descend in elevation? So every hour, how much feet have they walked down? Yes, that is 78 feet, okay? And that's our equation. All right, guys, so make sure on the recharge and type activity after this, you draw a picture first to visualize what the situation looks like, and then go ahead and find your M and B words, and then write the equation, okay? All right, let's go to the back of your paper, or write this in your journal. I want you guys to have this keywords for M and B, slope and y-intercept, handy so you can refer back to it whenever you need to, okay? So have this set up and then we are going to fill it in. All right, here we go, guys. So there are a lot of keywords for slope in green, and if it says up, ascend, that means it's a positive slope. If it says down, descend, or draining, or going down, that's a negative slope. And then for the y-intercept, all of those words. And then if it says like taking off some money off of the total amount or whatever, or a coupon is applied, that usually tells it's a negative y-intercept, negative B. Okay, so once you are done with this, go ahead and mark it as done and go to the next assignment, which is a recharge and type. Don't forget to draw a picture and identify your keywords. All right, we are done.